All right, so this deep dive is a wild one. About that health insurance CEO, Brian Thompson, killed outside that Midtown hotel last week.
Oh.
You remember that, right? Nationwide scramble to find the suspect.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Finally caught him at a McDonald's.
What?
In Altoona, Pennsylvania.
Wow.
The suspect, Luigi Mangione.
Okay.
It turns out he's got quite the backstory, and the evidence is kind of bizarre.
That really is a strange case.
Yeah.
You have a CEO killed a suspect on the run.
Yeah.
And then they find Monopoly money in a backpack in Central Park.
I know. It's
like a movie or something.
It's like a movie.
Yeah.
The details about Mangione are just another layer to this whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
This guy was valedictorian of his high school.
Wow.
Graduated with 2 engineering degrees from UPenn.
Oh.
Seems to have had a very active social life.
Really?
Based on his social media. So how does someone like that end up as the prime suspect in a murder investigation?
That is the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's almost like there's 2 different versions of this guy.
Right.
The successful young professional.
Yeah.
And the alleged fugitive.
Right.
Then you add in the evidence.
Yeah.
A ghost gun.
What?
With a silencer.
Oh, hey, hold on, back up.
Yeah.
Ghost gun.
It's a firearm without a serial number, so it can't be traced.
Oh.
They can be assembled from kits or even 3D printed.
Oh, wow.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
Because of Mangione's background.
Right.
He could have easily built this type of weapon.
So he used his technical expertise to go off the grid.
Yeah, potentially.
You mentioned a manifesto.
Yeah.
What was that about?
It looks like a critique of the healthcare system. Specifically health insurance companies.
Okay.
He accuses them of being more concerned with profits than patient care.
Yeah, you hear that a lot.
Yeah, it's a common sentiment these days.
So how does that tie into the murder
of a health insurance CEO?
Well, that's what investigators are trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Is this revenge?
Okay.
Or was he driven by something bigger? You know, seeing Thompson as a symbol of a broken system.
Right, okay.
That he wanted it to take down.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But what about the Monopoly money?
Right.
It's not every day you find a backpack full of Monopoly money.
No, you don't.
Just lying around Central Park.
It's very strange.
Yeah.
Some think it's symbolic.
Oh, really?
A commentary on how he saw the healthcare industry.
Okay.
Like a rigged game.
Was he trying to make a statement?
Maybe?
Or was it to distract investigators?
Potentially.
You know, maybe he thought the police would waste time trying to figure out the Monopoly money while he made his getaway.
It's possible.
Yeah.
It could have been misdirection.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was just something random.
Right. We tend to look for patterns and meaning where there might be none.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so back to the timeline.
Okay.
We know Thompson was shot last Wednesday.
Right.
Outside his hotel.
Yes.
Then Mangione disappears, leaving the backpack.
Right.
What happened next?
Well, the police released security footage and photos asking for the public's help. It was a nationwide manhunt.
Wow.
Seemed like he completely vanished.
And then he pops up at a McDonald's in Altoona.
Of all places.
Talk about bad luck.
Yeah.
Did someone recognize him?
An employee saw him on the news and called the police.
So he was just trying to blend in.
It seems like it.
Grab a bite to eat.
Yeah.
Lay low.
Yeah.
But he picked the wrong place.
He did.
For a burger.
Yeah.
And when they arrested him, he had more than a Big Mac.
He did.
The ghost gun, silencer, fake IDs.
Wow.
It was like he was prepared to just disappear.
It seems that way.
Yeah.
A level of planning.
Right.
And the manifesto adds another layer.
Okay.
He wasn't just running.
Right.
He was making a statement. All right. Let's dig deeper into that manifesto.
Okay.
What was he so riled up about?
He was focused on what he saw as unethical practices by insurance companies. Specifically tactics like depose, deny, and delay.
Depose, deny, and delay.
Yeah.
Sounds like he was trying to expose what he saw as the industry's dirty little secrets.
Right.
But those are just words.
Right.
How do they connect to murder?
Well, that's where it gets interesting. Remember those unusual bullet casings?
The ones with the words on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was creepy.
Yeah.
What did they say again?
Depose, deny, and delay.
No way, the same words.
The same words for the manifesto.
So he engraved them on the bullets.
It seems so.
That's taking symbolism to a whole other level.
It does.
Wow.
Suggest premeditation.
Right.
A very specific message.
Yeah.
He was accusing the healthcare industry of using those very tactics against patients.
Wow.
Leading to real harm.
So it's not just about healthcare being expensive, it's about a perceived injustice, a belief that the system is rigged against the patient. And he chose to express that anger in a very dramatic and tragic way.
A very tragic way.
So we've got a potential motive.
We do.
But what about Mangione himself?
Right.
Was there anything in his background that could led him down this path? He seems to have had a pretty privileged upbringing.
It seems so.
Good schools, successful career path.
Yeah.
Why would he risk it all?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
What happened to this successful young man?
Right.
To make him commit such a shocking act? To answer that, we need to dig deeper into his past, his experiences, and what shaped his worldview.
Let's rewind the clock.
Okay.
Go back to his roots.
Yeah.
See if we can find any clues to how he went from star student to murder suspect.
Okay. His journey from Maryland to the Ivy League is crucial to understanding this guy.
Okay.
Let's start with his upbringing.
All right.
In Baltimore.
Yeah.
He went to Gilman.
Gilman School.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a serious institution.
It is.
Not exactly a place you associate with a future fugitive.
No, not at all.
What was he like back then?
He excelled academically.
Okay.
Graduated as valedictorian in 2016.
Wow.
He was also on the wrestling team.
Oh, wow.
So disciplined and competitive.
So a high achiever.
Yeah.
Driven to succeed.
Seems so.
Sounds like he was on the fast track to a successful life.
Right? Yeah.
Where did things go off the rails?
Well, after Gilman, he went to UPenn.
Oh, wow.
Got a bachelor's and a master's in engineering.
Wow.
Focused on computer science.
Okay.
With a minor in math.
So this guy was brilliant.
Yeah, very much so.
You'd think someone with that kind of brain power would be designing groundbreaking technologies.
Yeah. Not
building ghost guns and writing manifestos.
Yeah, it's quite a contrast.
Yeah.
And his social media paints an even more perplexing picture.
Oh, really?
Photos of him traveling, enjoying life with friends, attending social events.
Wow.
It all seems so normal.
Right. Hard to reconcile that image with the alleged actions.
Yeah.
So somewhere along the line, something shifted.
Definitely.
What could have triggered such a drastic change?
That's what we're trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Was there a specific event, a personal experience, a philosophical awakening that led him down this path?
Okay.
To answer that, we need to examine the events leading up to the shooting.
Okay, so let's go back to the days before the murder.
Okay.
We know Mangione took a Greyhound bus to New York about 10 days before the shooting.
Okay.
And police believe he came from Atlanta. That adds another layer of premeditation. Was this for a moment act?
Doesn't seem like it.
He traveled across state lines, it seems like, with a purpose in mind.
Right.
And after the shooting, he ends up in Altoona.
Right.
Again, by Greyhound. So it seems like he was deliberately choosing this mode of transportation. But why?
Could be a way to avoid detection.
Oh.
Greyhound doesn't require ID for tickets.
Oh.
Makes it easy to travel anonymously.
So he's traveling under the radar, trying to throw off potential pursuers.
Yeah, potentially.
And his choice of destinations raises questions too.
Definitely.
Atlanta, New York, Altoona.
Yeah.
Was there a specific reason he chose those places? Or was he just trying to create a confusing trail to make it harder for authorities to track him down?
Could be.
Okay, so back to the potential motive. Right. We know he was critical of the healthcare system. But was it just general frustration? Or was there something more specific? Personal, perhaps?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Was there a personal experience that fueled this anger towards the healthcare system?
Right.
Did he have a negative encounter with an insurance company?
Okay.
Did someone close to him suffer?
Yeah.
Because of a denied claim or a bureaucratic hurdle?
Those are definitely avenues worth exploring. Maybe he saw firsthand how these depose, deny, delay tactics could have real-life consequences.
Yeah, for sure.
Causing hardship and suffering for patients. Definitely. We know he was a brilliant engineer.
Yeah.
Maybe he saw the healthcare system through that lens.
Oh, that's interesting.
As a flawed machine
that
needed to be dismantled and rebuilt.
fascinating.
Right? Maybe he saw himself as a problem solver.
Yeah.
And the problem he chose to tackle was the perceived injustice of the healthcare system. But instead of using his skills for good, he allegedly went down a dark path.
It seems so.
Choosing violence over more peaceful methods of change.
A tragic turn of events.
It is.
And it raises questions about unchecked anger and frustration. Even if his motives came from a genuine place, his alleged actions ultimately resulted in harm and loss.
And it's important to remember, he's still a suspect. Innocent until proven guilty.
Absolutely.
A legal process will determine the extent of his involvement and the motivations behind his actions.
Definitely.
But as we dig deeper, it's clear this case goes way beyond a murder investigation.
It really does.
It's a story that exposes vulnerabilities of the healthcare system, the complexities of human nature, and the dangers of unchecked anger and frustration.
Definitely.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, we have.
In this first part of our deep dive. But there's still much more to unpack.
Lots more to unpack.
In the next part, we'll delve into the legal and ethical dilemmas surrounding this case and the potential long-term implications for the healthcare industry and society as a whole.
Yeah, this is a big one. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. Last time we left off digging into Mangini's background and the potential motives behind his alleged actions.
For sure.
It's clear this case goes way beyond just a whodunit. It's really got people talking about the state of healthcare in this country.
Definitely.
And the frustrations so many people feel.
Yeah, you see it everywhere.
Yeah, it's touched a nerve.
It has.
We're seeing people online drawing comparisons between Mangini and some sort of folk hero, you know, taking on a system they see as rigged.
Yeah.
It's like he's become this symbol.
It seems like it.
For those who feel powerless against the healthcare industry,
I think so.
But let's be clear, we are not condoning violence.
Absolutely not.
As a solution to this.
No.
There are peaceful ways
of course
to advocate for change.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
However, this case does force us to confront the very real anger and disillusionment that exists towards the healthcare system.
For sure.
It's not just about Mangini, it's about a larger societal issue.
Definitely a larger issue.
Okay, so let's talk about those issues.
Okay.
What are the biggest pain points people experience when it comes to healthcare in the U.S.?
Right.
We all hear the complaints.
We do.
But what's at the heart of it all?
One of the biggest issues is the cost.
Right.
The U.S. spends more per person on healthcare than any other developed nation.
It's crazy.
And yet our health outcomes often lag behind.
It's true.
It's like we're paying a premium
Yeah.
for a service that isn't delivering.
Right, and it's not just the overall cost.
No.
It's the lack of transparency.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to know what something will cost until you get the bill.
Exactly.
And by then it's too late.
Too late.
That lack of transparency creates this sense of distrust, makes it incredibly difficult to make informed decisions about your care.
How can you plan financially when you have no idea how much it'll cost?
It's impossible.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole insurance nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
Deductibles, co-pays, out-of-network fees.
It's a nightmare.
It's enough to make anyone's head spin.
Trying to navigate the insurance system can be a full-time job.
Seriously.
And even with insurance, you can still end up with huge medical bills you can't afford.
Right.
It's a constant source of stress and anxiety for so many people.
It's like this looming fear of getting sick.
Right.
Because you know it could financially ruin you.
Yeah, and that fear is worse for some people.
Of course.
People in rural areas, underserved communities, where access to care is limited.
Absolutely.
The lack of access to affordable, quality health care creates this vicious cycle. People avoid care. Their conditions worsen. And the costs keep piling up.
It's terrible. And let's not forget about prescription drug prices.
Absolutely.
It's outrageous that people have to choose between life-saving medications and basic necessities, food and housing.
The pharmaceutical industry wields a lot of power. And the way we regulate drug pricing is frankly broken.
So we have this perfect storm. High costs, lack of transparency, complicated insurance systems, limited access to care, and sky-high drug prices.
It's no wonder people are at their wits' end.
No wonder.
And when people feel like the system is failing them, they react in different ways. Some become politically active. Some disengage from the system. And sometimes, like maybe with Mangione, that frustration boils over into anger and tragically violence.
It's a stark reminder that healthcare is more than just a policy issue.
Absolutely.
It's about people's lives. Their well-being. Their very survival.
Exactly. And we can't condone violence.
Of course not.
But we need to acknowledge these systemic failures that create this desperation and anger.
So what can be done?
That is the question.
How do we fix a system that seems so fundamentally broken?
It's the billion-dollar question. There's no easy answer. It'll take a multifaceted approach. Policymakers, providers, individuals.
We need to learn from other countries that provide quality health care at a lower cost. We need more transparency in pricing, simplified insurance systems, and expanded access to care for everyone, regardless of where they live or how much money they make.
Absolutely.
And we have to address prescription drug costs. We need to find ways to make life-saving medications affordable and accessible to everyone who needs them.
It's a daunting task.
It is.
But it's essential if we want a healthcare system that serves the people, not just corporate profits.
Okay, let's bring it back to Mangione. We talked about the systemic issues. But what about his grievances? What was he so angry about?
His manifesto gives us some insight. He rails against the industry, specifically insurance companies, accusing them of prioritizing profits over patient care. He seems especially angry about those depose, deny, delay tactics, which he believes are used to keep people from getting care.
So he saw these tactics as more than just cost saving. He saw them as a deliberate act of harm.
It seems that way.
Exactly. He seems to believe that these tactics have real-world consequences, and potentially even leading to people's deaths.
It's possible.
And remember, he allegedly inscribed those words on the bullet casing. Chilling detail. It suggests a deep-seated rage and a desire to expose what he perceived as a corrupt system.
It seems so.
But was it purely ideological? Or was there something more personal that might have fueled his anger?
That's what investigators are trying to find out. Was there an event in his past? Maybe a negative experience that solidified his beliefs and pushed him over the edge.
Perhaps someone close to him suffered.
It's possible.
Because of a denied claim or a lengthy appeals process. We know he was a brilliant engineer.
We do.
Maybe he saw the healthcare system through that lens. A flawed machine that needed to be rebuilt.
That's an interesting thought.
Maybe his training made him attuned to systemic flaws. And he couldn't reconcile that with a system that deals with human life.
That's possible.
But even if he was driven by a desire to expose those flaws, it doesn't justify,
of course not,
his alleged actions.
No.
Violence is never the answer.
Absolutely not.
And it's important to remember that he's innocent until proven guilty.
Absolutely.
Of course. But this case raises important questions about how we address systemic injustice. When people feel like the system is rigged against them, what recourse do they have?
It's a question for the ages.
It is.
No easy answer. But this case highlights the importance of addressing these issues before they get to this point.
When people feel unheard, ignored, powerless, their frustration can fester and manifest in destructive ways.
It's a tragic reminder of that.
It is.
A story that goes beyond a simple crime. A reflection of the deep-seated problems and the need for change.
Absolutely.
Let's not forget the victim in all of this. Brian Thompson. He was more than just a CEO. He was a person. A family. Friends, colleagues who are now grieving.
His death is a tragedy.
It is.
Regardless of his position or the circumstances.
Absolutely.
Important to remember that behind the headlines and the legal proceedings are real people whose lives have been changed by this event.
Changed forever.
So as we continue to explore this case, let's keep in mind the human element.
Of course.
The individual story.
Yeah.
Often lost in the sensationalized news.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's use this case as an opportunity for reflection.
And dialogue. How can we as a society address these issues?
Right.
How can we create a healthcare system that's truly just and equitable?
Important questions.
For all.
Yeah.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
In this part of our deep dive.
Right.
But there's still more to explore.
More to come.
In the final part, we'll delve into the legal and ethical challenges.
All right.
This case presents,
as
well as the potential long-term implications for the healthcare industry and society as a whole.
Stay with us.
This conversation is far from over.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot.
We have.
From the crime itself to the issues within healthcare.
Yeah.
This case has really brought those together.
It is.
Now let's step into the area where things get really complex. The legal and ethical landscape.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting. This case isn't just about guilt or innocence. It's about free speech. The consequences of what you say and how we as a society navigate those lines.
Yeah, that Manifesto Mangino wrote. Key piece of the puzzle here.
It is.
Powerful expression of his views on the healthcare industry.
Yeah.
But it could also be used against him in court.
Exactly. The defense might argue that it's protected free speech. A form of protest against the system he saw as unjust.
Right, but the prosecution could counter that it shows intent, that his words led to his actions.
Exactly.
So where's the line between passionate dissent and something that crosses over
into dangerous territory?
Yeah, that's a question.
It is.
That's been debated for centuries.
It has.
And this case could be a landmark example.
It could.
Of how those lines are defined in the digital age.
Especially in the digital age.
And speaking of digital, we can't ignore social media.
Of course not.
Mangini was active online.
Like a lot of people his age.
Yeah. What role did social media play in shaping his worldview?
That's something investigators will look into.
Yeah.
Were there online communities or individuals who might have reinforced his anger? Maybe pushed him toward a more extreme path.
It's tricky. It is. We don't want to create a society where people are afraid to express themselves online for fear of legal trouble.
But we also have to acknowledge that words have power.
They do.
Especially today.
Especially online.
This case really forces us to confront that.
It does. It's a delicate balance.
It is.
And there are no easy answers.
No easy answers.
But it's a conversation we need to have.
We do.
Okay, so we've talked about the legal stuff. But there's also a moral dimension. To this case, that's hard to ignore.
Definitely.
We're seeing people online portray Mangione as this vigilante hero.
It's a dangerous narrative.
It is.
It romanticizes violence. Ignores the consequences. A man is dead. A family is grieving. No matter how frustrated we are. Violence is never the answer.
Absolutely.
It's important to remember that there are peaceful and legal ways to fight for change. Hold corporations accountable. Advocate for a more just and equitable system.
Absolutely. This case should be a wake-up call.
It should.
Not a blueprint for action.
No.
It highlights the need to address these issues. So people don't feel so desperate that they resort to extreme measures.
So what can we do?
What can we do?
How do we channel that frustration into something constructive? Knowledge is power. Educate yourself about the issues. Support organizations fighting for reform. Contact your elected officials. Make your voice heard.
Vote for candidates who align with your values. And most importantly, talk to people. Have those conversations about these issues.
Even with people who disagree.
Change doesn't happen overnight.
No, it doesn't.
But it starts with each of us.
It does.
We can't afford to be complacent.
No, we can't.
The health of our nation depends on it.
It really does.
This deep dive has taken us on quite a journey.
It has.
We started with a shocking crime. And ended up exploring some of the biggest challenges facing our society today.
Big challenges.
And while the details of this case are unique, the issues it exposes are all too common.
They are.
We're seeing the consequences of a system that often fails to meet the needs of its people.
This case is a tragedy.
It is.
On multiple levels.
It is a reminder that we can't ignore the human cost of these failures.
But it's also a call to action.
It is.
We have the power to create a better future.
I hope so.
A future where healthcare is a right.
Yeah.
Not a privilege.
That's it for this deep dive.
All right.
We hope this conversation has given you some new insights.
Some things to think about.
And inspired you to think critically about the complexities of healthcare.
For sure.
In our country.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.